As always, before we jump into it, shout out to Candy Pants on Twitter for supporting the content by using code demonjoe on Advanced GG. For those interested in doing the same, check the first link in the description. Thank you. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I know many of you are waiting for my next weapon set review for the season, but I just had to sit down with y'all and dedicate a video to just one weapon today. It's fairly rare that I do this, but the weapon we're going to talk about today is an absolute gem, and if you're watching this before September 13th, then this is the perfect week for you to go out of your way and farm for one, because spoiler alert, it's not going to get much easier than this. I'm of course talking about the 𝗷𝗡𝗍𝗏, and in today's video, I hope to convince you that this is by far the best Arc SMG in the game for PvE, with perk rolls making it absolutely phenomenal for any Arc 3.0 build that you're wanting to indulge in for the future. With all that said, before we jump into it, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do so, as I cover anything and everything Destiny 2 PvE. And without further ado, let's jump into this. So to kick today's video off, I want to of course go over how you'll end up farming this SMG out. And I know what you're thinking, oh Demon Joe, it's a Crucible playlist weapon, how could you possibly farm a playlist weapon? I mean, not only is it a random drop, but the perk pools on these things are absolutely massive, just like my penis. And you are right, theoretical commenter, but remember how I said earlier, if you're watching this before September 13th, that you're in luck, because this is what I mean by that. This week in Destiny, we are experiencing the first Iron Banner of the season with the debut of a new Crucible game mode known as Erupted inside of Iron Banner. This game mode is a mix between Call of Duty's Cranked and Destiny's already existing Mayhem mode. That being the case, you can imagine these games go by pretty quickly, but that's not all. We also have double Crucible reputation for the entirety of the week on top of this newfound game mode, meaning you're going to be going in and out of matches at Mach speed, leveling up your Crucible reputation, getting those SMG drops, and leveling Iron Banner passively in the background. And before anyone tells me that the SMG is still a random drop, this is how many SMGs I got in only about 2 hours of Iron Banner yesterday on my Twitch stream. Now, taking into consideration this week we're getting that double Crucible rep, that also means that nearly every out of bounds drop that you get is gonna look something like this as long as you keep grinding. For those out of the loop, Bungie not too long ago added a quality of life addition to how we grind playlist weapons, and that's essentially for every time that we prestige at a playlist vendor, aka maxing out your reputation and claiming the exotic, you're given extra chances on landing multiple perks on any of the playlist weapons that end up dropping for you. So you have this combined with the bonus rep to help you get to that point, and the lightning fast games of Iron Banner Eruption, which is just going to make for the perfect time to set aside some time and grind out the Crucible. Out of Bounds being a new playlist weapon also means that, you know, the drop chances for it are obviously skewed because literally every single match, aside from maybe 3 or 4, I got this SMG. And I totally get it if you're not a big PvP guy, I'm not either, but I was having some of the most fun I've ever had in Crucible yesterday with this new game mode, so I'll definitely be spending my weekend racking up ranks and those SMG drops in search for the perks that we're going to talk about in this video. So speaking of perks, now that we've gone over how to actually farm this SMG, let's finally talk about the weapon itself and why you're going to want it. So Out of Bounds is an Arc 900 RPM SMG, which tends to be most people's favorite archetype, with an incredible perk set that rewards those who lean heavily into the ability playstyle with Arc subclasses. When taking a look at the stats, Out of Bounds excels in every category except for range when compared to its little brother, the stochastic variable, making the stat line across the board very good for a 900. Because of this, outside of main column perks, you won't have to worry too much about what you get here. Range is always nice on SMGs though whenever it comes to the barrel, because that's going to reduce any potential damage fall off, so make sure you're looking for Corkscrew, Hammer Forged, and maybe Small Bore, as those are the barrels that are going to give you extra range and some extra stats without knocking down any of the other ones. Now when it comes to the magazine, you're best off with something that's going to increase the mag size like Appended, but Light Mag or Flared are also going to work here for boosting that reload. And of course the Masterwork isn't going to matter that much, really doesn't matter what you get here, but obviously reload again would be ideal. Now when taking a look at the main column perks, we have some absolute doozies in here that will appeal to multiple playstyles. So taking a look at the first column, we have a ton of great options. We have Threat Detector, Grave Robber, Subsistence, Demolitionist, and Perpetual Motion, kind of being a little bit of an pick, but it's still there. With the second column featuring Kill Clip, Surrounded, Golden Tricorn, Swashbuckler, and Adrenaline Junkie. So taking a step back and talking individual god rolls, Threat Detector and Surrounded makes a fantastic combo. That's the OG 𝗙𝗚𝗏 SMG roll that I used for like 12,000 kills. Grave Robber and Swash can combine for a good Arc 3.0 melee build. Subsistence can go with just about any damage perk in the second column, same for Perpetual Motion. And finally, we have Demolitionist, which is going to be phenomenal when paired with either Adrenaline Junkie or Tricorn. And that last combination I just talked about there is why I'm so excited for this weapon and why I've been grinding for one. Arc 3.0 has proven itself to not only have phenomenal grenades, but also really strong melee abilities across all classes, which is just easily going to go hand in hand if you end up getting that Golden Tricorn roll, as it's just going to give you another avenue of maintaining that 50% damage buff. For those that don't know, Golden Tricorn is a really cool ability perk that gives 15% damage on your first kill. You just get a weapon kill, you basically have Frenzy for 6 seconds, and then it upgrades to 50% for 10 seconds on its second stack after you get an ability kill that matches your subclass, so a grenade or a melee ability or anything like that. And this can be refreshed as many times as you want, so you get that 10 seconds of 50% damage at 900 rounds per minute, and you just throw a nade, you can refresh it, you hit an enemy with your melee, you refresh it, you know, back to back to back, and you're just constantly keeping that 50% damage bonus on this SMG. So with the role of Demo Tricorn, for example, you're able to constantly get your grenade back to help with that second stack of Tricorn to proc, but with Arc 3.0, grenades aren't your only option, as with the Fragment Spark of Discharge, you're able to spawn Ionic Traces on Arc Weapon Final Blows, and these are essentially elemental wells that will intrinsically track to you after killing an enemy and award you with tons of ability energy. And with this fragment, not only will you have your grenade up all the time with Demo, but this is also going to help you in the melee department, giving you plenty of options when it comes to keeping that damage buff going. So when it comes to Arc 3.0, I really only play Hunter personally, as that's my favorite class for this element. So I'll lightly go over a build example for this video, and of course you guys can either copy this build or make your own across the other classes. This isn't necessarily a build-centric video, more so just showcasing how good the weapon can be with a build. So I'm only going to show my Hunter here, but like I said, feel free to make your own or copy this one. So when it comes to the super on my Hunter, of course we're going to be rocking Gathering Storm since it's incredibly overpowered. For the dodge, we're running Gamblers so that I can get my melee back when dodging near enemies to help keep that Tricorn stat going. We're going to skip over the jump here, and then we're going to go to Combination Blow for my melee. This is going to restore my class ability in the event that I use it. And finally, for my grenades, I'm going to be using Storm, as it has a low cooldown and can absolutely decimate any area that I throw it into. For the aspects, I'm running Lethal Current since we're leaning so heavily into melee. This will give me increased lunge range, allow me to jolt my targets, create damaging aftershock on those that survive. I can pair this with Tempest Strike, which will give me a special uppercut ability when sliding, which this is going to be really good for ad clear, and any surviving enemy that is jolted, I'll be able to blind them with any additional melee hits thanks to Lethal Current, so we got some synergy going there. For my fragments, I'm rocking Spark of Discharge, which we talked about earlier for the Ionic Traces, Magnitude to make my Storm Nades even more OP, Shock to make my Storm Nades even more OP by jolting enemies, and lastly, I have Spark of Resistance since I'll be so close to enemies, but this last slot is really a bonus for just about any fragment that you want. Lastly, for the gear I'm running, of course I'll have my Out of Bounds equipped, preferably with Demo Tricorn, although I don't have one with Tricorn just yet. For the armor, I don't really have anything too complicated here, just the basics. Here I'm running an exotic, the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Scales, to maximize my super damage. Moving on to the helmet, I'm rocking Arc Siphon, so I can make myself orbs to synergize with my exotic, as well as hands-on for additional super energy on the melee kills that I'm going to be racking up. For my arms, I'm rocking Stasis Element for Grenade Kickstart, as well as Elemental Armaments for Arc Elemental Wells to go alongside the SMG kills that we're going to be racking up, because we're going to have that damage buff. It's going to be pretty easy. For the chest piece, I'm not rocking anything special, so here I put Seeking Wells so that my wells can seek towards me just like the Ionic Traces will, so I don't really need to change my playstyle to go out of my way and grab those. Moving on to the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Scales, I have Elemental Ordnance for those grenade wells, and lastly for the cloak, I'm rocking Bountiful Wells as well as Bomber mods to yet again spec into that constant grenade uptime. I'm not much of a build crafter, so you're probably going to be able to make a much better build than this on your own, but with this just being an example, you're completely spec'd into every arc ability imaginable, with constant uptimes for your abilities due to all the mods, fragments, and weapon perks at play, and with the constant kills that you're racking up with said abilities in the right roll of demonjoefrance on your SMG, you're going to have a weapon shooting at 900 rounds a minute, pretty much permanently clocked in at a 50% damage buff for whenever you need it. All in all, Out of Bounds is just a fantastic weapon for just about any use, but when leaning heavily into how much it synergizes with the Arc 3.0 subclasses, you learn to realize it's much better than what's initially on the surface, and serves as one of the best primaries you can be running right now inside PvE when rocking an ability-centric build. With all that said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's video. Today, I finally made my first real weapon review of the season and gave y'all a spicy little Arc 3.0 build to go alongside it. Out of Bounds is by far my favorite weapon thus far this season, as it's just the perfect gun to pair with my Arc Hunter, and I hope I helped you all see why I like it so much. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video, but before I end off, I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone that watched the video up until this point, as it feeds that hungry YouTube algorithm, and it really supports the channel. As always, shout out to my Patreon supporters that you can see on screen here, and special thanks to my tier 2s being 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, John, and Serenity, as well as my tier 3s Austin, 𝘁𝗵𝗶𝗀, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.